Awesome. Yeah, welcome back everyone for another Boulders X session. It's always, always a nice hour to sort of get in touch with everyone and share what we're working on. Today's session, we're going to focus mostly on a nice sort of build with me again, get sort of hands dirty with some of the features and some of the exciting things that we've got running on the platform at the moment. But before we get into that, I'm going to give an opportunity to build side, Jan, Daniel, just to give a bit of an update on some of the features that we'd like to sort of make you aware of and get excited about, and just what to expect coming forward next week or two. So yeah, over to you, Jan and Daniel.
Okay, should we just dive in? Should be fairly quick. The idea is just to show a couple of things. You can go and look at the detail and obviously ask questions as we via the support channel. So we'll keep it quite short. Okay, so the first thing, again, just to notice on your Bolt Pulse, the sort of homepage of obviously where all your activity is happening or visualized, we added a rhythm section, so you can get a sense of like, what are you, morning person, evening person, comparing the team, get a sense of like when you are the most productive. So a bit of just a fun sort of portion of it. Number one. Number two is we introduced obviously skills via the TUI. It's now that same list, and we'll add functionality is available via the console as well. So the ability to kind of see what's been shared with you and what's been provided by the platform. And then obviously as you do a deeper dive in some of these things, you can kind of really explore what's in that skill. Just like a quick again, nothing new, just a different way of sort of accessing some of these things. Cool. That's number two. Number three is you would have seen, some of you may have seen this now, that all the build specialist conversations are happening or on the console as well. So if you navigate there, it's the same sort of conversational threads, similar to what's in the TUI. It's just a different way of accessing the same thing. So whether you log a request here or via the TUI, it's the same channel. Yeah, and then this last thing is just on the is we're introducing, or we're experimenting with what we call shells, cloud shells. And the goal is really to make accessing your particular build environment in a secure, safe environment, without, in some cases, having to worry about any sort of local machines. And Daniel is doing a lot of work on that. But in a nutshell, quite simple. It's a VM backed. So you could sort of click new machine, you pick a machine, you pick, sleep after so many minutes, because it's a cost gig. But it means that if your agent runs and therefore active, this machine will stay up and not go to sleep, which is kind of a nice. Daniel is working on just the SSH kind of version, like integration of these, which means that your Claude desktop app will be able to point to this remote environment. So you kind of get a bit of both. But in a nutshell, it's like in your build environment, in this case, it's a Crano organization. There's a VM, and the VM is mine. It's user-based, so nobody shares it. There's no sort of performance issues. There's pure ring-fenced, 100 gig for this particular one. So if I open it up, what you'll see is really just a shell. And part of that is you can run the command line, which is the TUI, the ls, and this is as normal. This is just as normal. You can log support, etc. All the sort of detail. Now with this, we also ship things like you could let's open the terminal and I launch Claude. I can run Claude in here, or harness of relevant harnesses. Daniel added things like NeoVim. So if you want to explore your files, you can go and find the files on these. So it's kind of a lightweight wrapper that monitors activities and sleep once you've, once it can. And that's it. Daniel, did I miss anything?
No, I think the crux there is the traffic that's picked up is both web traffic, so you actually being in your browser busy with a shell, or if you were to kick off a Claude session, which is busy with quite a lot of things, all of that, any terminal output is picked up as activity. As soon as nothing's happening, so Claude finishes 3 hours later, the machine picks it up and will switch off after 30 minutes. So it's both you being there and what's happening in the terminal that's driving the idleness. Yeah.
Question, Tom.
I may have missed it, but is there a way to kick off a session using the Alice CLI? The reason I ask is because if I'm using an agent and I'm discussing a like work unit, and I'd like to send that work unit off to my remote session to run async, would I be able to do that using the CLI on this remote machine?
That's a good question. So not currently, but it's a
Nice idea. It's a nice idea.
Yeah.
You could, I mean, there's a world where you can connect SSH. Yeah, so we'll get into sort of more details on connectivities and stuff, but it's really to, people are working with Claude Desktop, a lot of stuff. How do you facilitate that environment without having to, in some cases, you can't install stuff locally. Some cases you don't want to. So we're gonna iterate on this. This is still in preview, so we might break things. It's still rough around the edges, but it's looks quite promising. Then just another thing just to point out, like you'll see some of these code bases or these skills are now being vetted. It was I think Patrick had the question 2 weeks ago on skill poisoning, all that stuff. So we do review the skills based on like best practices on what you should be having a skill or not. So in other words, so there's kind of a skill poisoning check and all those things sort of built in. The other thing is we now, I think, thank you to David for an idea. So we can now also bring in, and I'll show this. You can create a skill a couple of ways. You can manually create it. You can use an agent to help you with a skill, or you can go and import from GitHub. So you can point to a very specific folder in GitHub. So often there's these repos with hundreds of things. You go through it, you're like, cool, I like this one and that one. You point to it, and we'll then sync and pull that in on your skill. Now, a version of sort of what's coming is like the ability to actually make a pull request back to the GitHub sort of gig, to really encourage sort of these loop back with improving skills in that sort of gig. Import skills is if you have something locally saved on your machine somewhere, you can point to that and get that in as well. So just a couple of skill utilities. Cool. Yeah, I think that's it.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks, Jan. Yeah, and of course, if there's any questions around that, continue pressing S on TUI side, give us feedback, and yeah, we'll incorporate those features as we go. Yeah, if that's it, then from the platform update side, nothing more from you, Jan, Daniel. Then I'll kick off into the next next section for today. So maybe just a primer on before we move into that, just kind of what's kind of motivated today's session. So I think it seems that a lot of the feedback that we've been receiving around the platform, of course, is like we really have amazing features and code blocks. I mean, we've got like users IAM code blocks, we've got these agent scaffolding code blocks, that sort of thing. But like especially for newer builders, bringing all these things together and gelling them into some useful product or useful service or something that solves a problem is not necessarily that simple and obvious. And so we've been thinking around how do we as a platform make that feel simpler. And of course, like over the last couple of weeks, we have been talking a lot about skills. And so that's really feels like the natural way to drive a lot of these flows and a lot of these things, and entry points and gateways to getting these patterns set up. And so we've started sort of along those lines, and still very early on, but we think it's the way to go. And so today I want to introduce to you the agent starter pack skill that I've been spending a bit of time on, and we're going to just give that a run through and look like what it gets, see what it looks like to get started building out, some of these agent systems on Alice Build. And these are, proper systems, bringing together the IAM, bringing together the sort of agent code blocks, etc. So yeah, we're just going to have a look at what that looks like. And of course, that's the idea, is to extend that catalog as we go along. So I'm just going to bring that up, share my screen. Awesome. Okay, so just quickly, there we go. So just again, a reminder, on the TUI, we've got our skills view, and you notice now there's a couple of new tabs. There's yours, there's the ones that you shared, and then there's platform skills. So these are the skills that we share as a platform. So these are available to all builders across the ecosystem, and they can benefit and use these skills. And I've introduced a new skill called agent starter pack. So agent starter pack. So this is the skill there. If anybody can't reach it, please let us know, but this should be available to everybody, everyone across the platform. And this is the sort of entry point for in all these agent catalog patterns that we are going to flesh out and make available to the community and help get started and accelerate agent building. So I'm just going to sort of step into a sandbox project of mine and then get set up with this agent skill and show you how it actually accelerates and make that simple for you. So I'm just going to switch over into a sandbox project. So I'm going to get my Alice CLI running. So I have already pre-installed that skill. I've installed it locally to my local Claude config because I enjoy I'll show you in a moment, but I quite enjoy the flow of just being able to / engage a skill and then start from there. So I'm going to sort of use that flow for today. So as always, we want to start with creating a new service. So just create a new service in my product. So I'm going to call it expense agent v1. So that'll make sense in a couple of seconds why I'm calling it that. And just go to that guy and then open my terminal to the side. Okay, so now let's just get Claude set up. So this is just normal sort of setup prior to starting a build. So we've got our TUI set up. We're in our environment. We're in the service we've just created, and we've got our Claude session running. So getting started is really as simple, assuming that you have the skill installed, as simple as just / agent starter pack. And the idea then is that it's going to trigger a flow for you to now get started building agents on the platform. So at the moment, it's only 2 different patterns that we support. As I mentioned, the idea is to extend this catalog. And so a lot of these are coming from, for example, the open ADK samples repository. So they put down there a lot of samples of sort of inspire and set patterns for what it could look like to use these agents in real world scenarios. Of course, a lot of those are very sort of toy-like examples. They don't have the proper IAM. They're not sort of resource-backed APIs, etc. behind them. And so taking a lot of those and putting them into the real Alice Build best practices and then making those available through the skills and through code blocks. So today we're going to be building an ambient expense agent. So this was something I got quite excited about, going through the samples. For those familiar with ADK and sort of following some of the releases they've been doing lately, they've recently launched the workflows, which is the V2 of the API, and they actually support like a mix between what was the previous world of just these non-deterministic agent components, but now you can actually slot those into sort of directed process graph flows. So you can have decisions and forks in your workflows that are very deterministic, combined with these powerful components, which are these like agent nodes in that graph. And so it allows a lot of really interesting applications. And this particular one is, a very simple application of that, hopefully inspire, a couple of more use cases. I'll go in a little bit more detail once we've got everything up and deployed, like what the actual behavior is and how the agent's working. But for now, we just want to, this is the agent. We going through the catalog, we find that this is something, this is interesting to us. We want to, scaffold this on Alice build and see what it looks like. So we're going to go with the ambient expense agent. And so that guy. And yes, allow. So while that's running, just mention, so this is okay. So the skill has now been activated. And some of these agent patterns require you to have your OIDC, i.e. users or IAM sort of set up for your product. And so there's, part of that skill is obviously preempting you to be able to, make sure that that's in place before you do that. Going to extend the skill eventually that, if you don't have that set up, the skill can then route you to the appropriate, users code block skill and help you get set up with that and then come back and continue here. So it's really going to, the intention to be super self-serving and, in this window, guide you through everything you need to get to that deployed agent at the end of the day. So in my case, I've already set up a users v1 code block, so I'm not going to run through that today just to save us some time. But yep, it's already set up. So the code block's happy. So yeah, we'll just go and grab that skill, go and discover the skill. It hasn't found it locally, so it's running through the Alice CLI now to do a search for that skill, and that's behind that particular code block. They had found it. So the sort of agent starter kit is routed to the correct skill that's behind that code block and is now pulling that code block down for me. So it's establishing context. So we've spoken about this before. The CLI needs to know, what service, what product am I running in? And then it's gotten to the point, okay, great, we need to install this code block. Yes, please go ahead and just install it. Before I do that, everything's in sync. So I'm going to go ahead and install that code block. So the idea, again, just everything, this is a total walkthrough of eventually getting to a deployed agent with all the bells and whistles, making it as seamless and easy as possible. And in a minute, it's going to sort of asking me for a couple of configuration details that I need to set this agent up. So it's just busy installing at the moment. There we go. So that was really fast. So the code block is installed. So now it's asking me, because I mentioned previously that I already have a user's IAM block, it's asking me what is the name of the package ID where that's actually living in my product. So in my case, it's that one. So it's recognized that there are multiple users, neurons in my current product. And so this is the actual one that I want to be using, which I, as I mentioned, set up previously. So that's the guy I want. So if we can see on the left-hand side here now, if we just go to expenses, expense agent, there we go. So all the code block files have been dropped for me. And now it's asking to make some changes. So based on the users package that I specified for this agent, it's now going to go and update some of my files in that code block, because then they need to be the right ones to obviously everything to hook up correctly. So yes, please go make those changes for me. I actually just want to allow edits. Yes. Go ahead. So it's taking all the inputs it prompted me for and going and actually making those adjustments to the code block for my particular use case. And then, part of this particular code block, it's because of like the little UI that it ships with, it wants to know some admin emails who are actually considered the admins for the application. Again, that'll make a little bit more sense when we bring the application up. So for me at the moment, I'll just make myself an admin. I could go at this point and, make anybody admin. This is still just configuration of the actual code block. And then what is the identity service URL? So I've got that available. So I've already deployed the IAM code block, so I'm going to type that out. I'll type the exact URL. So there we go. There's my URL. So I'm really not having to do much at all. I'm just sort of following Claude. Claude's guiding me through the process. Okay, so Claude's made those updates for me, and now it's just confirming with me the changes that have been made. So if I just go and check my Git tree, I can see in the clients there, it's made some changes, expenses, gone and replaced that users package for me, and then also in the variables.tf, it's gone and populated that admin emails and then the identity service URL for me. So everything hooks up as it should after we've all done and deployed. So I'm going to, so do these look correct? Yes, that's all looks correct to me. That's good. Let's move on. Okay, should I commit these? So yeah, so Claude, the part of the skill is like, it's designed to be totally hands-off, but you don't have to. You can, if you prefer, for example, to do things manually, you can go and do that manually. So I'm going to actually go and commit these myself. So I'm going to say draw expense agent.v1 and say sort of complete to-dos, and then commit that, and then tell Claude I've already committed, and then it should move on to the next step. So it's just verifying that I have in fact committed it, and now it's moving on to the next step. So again, now we need to run define. So again, I can choose to let Claude do it, or I can just do it myself. I've got the CLI open to the left of me, so I'm just going to do a quick define on the side. And again, just tell Claude I'm busy running it. We'll let you know when done. Okay, there we go. So it's done. So yeah, there's obviously, there's different sort of on the spectrum of how involved you want your agent to be, what you want your agent to do. I personally, in my flows, I enjoy, having the last commit myself, and sometimes running DVD flows. It feels, if I've got my TUI on the left-hand side, it's so seamless just to navigate and do it myself, save a little bit of tokens. So, find again what works best for you. So, okay, do we want to install the packages now? I'm going to say, cool, I'll install the packages. Don't worry, Claude, don't worry about it. I'm running it. So we're just going to wait for our packages to install. So again, up until this point, I really haven't interfered at all in the process. Claude's just walking me through it completely. And then, okay, done. So yeah, at this point, we obviously expect that there's been some go-mod tidies that have been extracted or created because the dependencies have all been run. So I can go and add those guys. So I'm doing this quite deliberately on doing things manually on the left versus having Claude do it all for me, just to show that you have total control of how you want to run your flows. It's not an all or nothing. You don't have to have Claude do everything for you. What you feel comfortable with, you can, and what you don't, you can always do in sort of normal traditional ways. Claude will work with you, or the skill at least will work with you, whatever you prefer. So I'm just going to say expense agent.v1 update go.mods and push those, and then say great. Okay, let Claude know I've committed and pushed. Okay, so are we going to bold? Okay, I can, it'd probably be quicker for me to click B than it would be for me to select the option there. So I'm just going to bold and select. And I'm going to, obviously, it's the first time I'm bolding, so I'm going to select everything. And this, does take a minute or two to run. So yeah, at this point, we've got fully deployed, installed the code block, run through all the configuration details that are required to make it, mine and in my context. And Claude's just, working me through the different setup along the way. So there's really nothing beyond that I need to do. Maybe this does take a little bit. So, and this is, getting close to, once we build, it's just to deploy, and then we have our up and running UI. Maybe while this is running, because it can take a little bit, given the first build, I'll just maybe shift over to the actual app we're gonna end up with at the end of the day, and just demo, how the workflows actually kind of come into play here. So this is the app. So it's a really simple, very simple app. It's just a simple little single page application with Go backend serving some HTML. The focus here is more on like having the agent pattern and everything hooking up together, as opposed to having a totally fully fledged complicated UI experience. So just to maybe walk you through, okay, so let me actually just go into the code a little bit just to kind of show you how this is different from a normal agent. So as I mentioned, ADK Go shipped V2 of their API recently, and so they allow these workflows. And so the agent that we're building here is mirroring this particular workflow. So from the UI, imagine the scenario: you're running a business, you have have employees that obviously track expenses and incur expenses rather. And so you want to have some automated managed service to allow your users to go or your employees to go and upload their receipts and have that processing be done or automated in some way that makes sense for you. In this case, for example, users would upload their expense, and then there's actually a router sitting in the graph. So the graph can route and say, okay, if an expense is below some threshold, I'm going to auto approve this. If it's above some threshold, then I want to actually send this to an agent, some like determinate, probabilistic, generative component of this pipeline, which is an agent, and have it review and look at that expense and assess it for potentially any risk or things that you don't quite look like it's a genuine expense potentially, and raise that with any admin, and then hand over that control of that agent loop to asynchronously to some admin to actually approve before that workflow can continue. So it's a combination of workflows plus these asynchronous back and forth between an initial user and some admin that's controlling it in two different entry points. So for example, I can come here and I'm a user and I want to add a new expense. So I'm tracking a new expense, say for lunch, my latest lunch, give it a date, and then submit it. And now because this is under $100, if I go it's been auto approved for me. So on the admin view, I needed to do nothing, and on my user's view, it's been auto approved. So there's no action to be taken. If I, for example, log a higher expense, call it for travel, one that's relevant for me recently, my flight changes, and submit that. So this should now trigger the other leg of the workflow. So now that's sitting in pending state. And if I go to the admin view and refresh that, see that pending is sitting there now. And I don't know if you noticed, it happened quite quickly, but the first time we went onto the page, there wasn't a risk assessment here. But asynchronously, the agent workflows actually pushed an assessment back to this for the admin to review. And then I can go and approve that particular expense, and then the user back on their side will see the approved expense. So it's a very simple application, but super powerful under the hood, what's actually possible with ADK workflows. So yeah, that's kind of what we're actually building. So the idea is to give you guys a template for what some of these patterns may look like, and again, inspire you to take them further and see where they fit in the particular use cases that you're actually building out. Let's see where this is at the moment. So yeah, we've got our build done, so we can just actually go and deploy that now. And then yeah, then we'll at the end of this, we've got our own version deployed. So at the end of this deploy, it's literally just going to be another Cloud Run instance deployed. You're going to have a backend service, you're going to have an agent service, and you're going to have your UI service, all with sort of proper IAM access management, OIDC sitting in front of it for access control and authentication. Yeah, so please give it a try, give us some feedback. Do keep an eye out from the agent starter pack skill, because yeah, I'll be extending that with more examples in the coming weeks, and so that's really the idea. Yeah, James.
Oh, thank you, Nicholas. This was amazing. We need to get rid of our expense management software. What was really interesting to me is when you brought up the UI, that was actually completely different to what I was expecting. I was expecting a chat window.
Yeah.
And so you've got this really interesting form factor where it's like software, but underneath the engine of that state is an agent. So I was wondering if you could maybe trigger the code blueprint skill and then give us a kind of anatomy of like, what triggers an agent, how it works with the back end.
Okay.
Because I'm very curious, kind of the anatomy of this.
Okay. No, let's do that. So okay, so this is all deployed now. So let's actually.
We can do it in a new session, so we don't really
exactly.
our own session.
So let's. Oh no, why am I doing that? Let's do it. So it was ZZ, and then it was expense agent, and we'll open up a new terminal. Okay, and then let's see. I probably don't have it installed, so we'll just trigger it remotely. So let's see. So what was the name of the skill, James? It was.
I think it's code blueprint. So just
code based blueprint.
Okay. Let's just do it dynamic.
Flow to fun. Yeah.
Please find the code base blueprint skill and apply this skill to the current service. Let's see what it comes up with. But yeah, you made a good point there, James, that this does kind of deviate from the typical chat interface, and it just goes to show that building these agentic applications is beyond the actual chat window. It has capacity to be used across.
Nicholas, just press Shift Tab to go into auto mode.
Yes. Where's? Yeah, okay. It's allowing me to do it now. Okay, let me just do it now,
and then Shift Tab.
There we go.
Yeah, there we go. What was interesting on the agent side, there's you didn't have to correct anything. You just said okay. So you could have, you didn't have to change any files, answer a few questions. So you could have done the right hand on auto mode.
Yeah. No.
Pretty robust.
Yeah, no.
Agent.
Of course.
Enjoyed.
Yeah, no, definitely. When you're running it in your own work, I mean, maybe the first time if you're running it, you might want to feel like you wanting to see what it's actually doing and guide, walk with Claude through that step by step. But certainly, as you get more comfortable, just there's no reason to actually, So yeah, it's found the skill there, code base blueprint. So I'm curious to see what it comes up.
You can teach us how it works. And then the other thing I wanted to ask if you could sort of teach us in a Let's Build. I see you've got a make file there.
Yes.
So if you wanted to kind of use your UI or use the agent itself locally, just how do you use that make file? And what's a good local development flow for systems like this?
So the local this particular make file is allows you to run the actual agent, so that brings it up into in the ADK web UI. So if you want to actually have a, so let's do that. So lots of windows going. Yeah, let me close this one. I don't actually need this one anymore. Chat about this. Just quick. So right. So make run agent. So I'm just take it to another page. So yeah, so if you're not familiar with make files are effectively like a structured declarative way to run scripts quite simply. And so they allow this entry point, like I define some logic that needs to run, and then just say make run UI or make run agent, and whichever set of instructions I've got below that will execute. And up front here, I'm just populating all my envs for my Alice environment, so that if there's sort of Google Cloud credentials or anything that need to be set up front, which is the case here because the agent are connecting with the Gemini APIs, then that's all set up for me. So so I'm running that now on localhost.
So Nicholas, just to chip in, so if you press M on the while on the service, if there's no make file, we'll generate one for you,
yes.
And then you can go and edit it.
Yeah.
So if you just as an example, just pick a demo, any other neuron, Nicholas, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure. So I'll take off my filter, and then
just select anyone.
oops.
And then open the file for the browser as well on the left for that corresponding one.
How do you mean?
Agent.
Oh.
It makes it on the left. You'll see what the file. I just want to show you what the file looks like when you run M on that.
Okay, so you just want me to click M, right?
If you click M, press M, hold there, created that file.
Yes.
Just scroll up to go to that folder.
Okay, yeah. So
Agent Chris.
Make file, this guy, yeah.
Make file. So that explains the kind of the deal. And it also gives you a help file. And the help file is what's used when you press capital M on that same. If you now press capital M, you'll see all your make commands there. So you might have it's kind of a nice shortcut just to there's a default one. The default goal in this case is run, but you have different variations of that. So we have on the console, we have an M that spins up back end, front end, the whole thing as a default. And then other sort of script sort of things.
Yep.
Nice.
While you're on that, just press G for glass. You see that little red G on that, yeah?
Yeah, I'll press it. G. Yeah. Oh, there we go. It's opened up on another window. I'll bring it up.
If you've got any questions and how does this work, examples, these are kind of, you scroll down, examples.
Yeah, there we go. Whatever else make file. So yeah, if you unsure
then variables, the variables logic. Any questions on that? Is just
okay.
And in practice,
if
you scroll down further down, this is kind of a how do you back end and front end?
Yeah.
Okay.
And open the windows and handle port switches and etc. Cool.
And I mean, some of these can be quite finicky as well. So get Claude to write some of them for you, review.
Claude should write and make files completely.
Exactly.
That's by far the easiest.
Yeah, for sure.
Do we have a skill?
We should. We probably should.
Claude's got it built in.
Okay, it's in the weights already. All right.
I'm sure it is. Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. This one is still actually running. But yeah, so localhost is running. So that means after running the make file, we can go to localhost, and here's your ADK web UI. So this is just a simple how to get in front of your agent on a local basis. This particular use case is a little bit finicky because it's working on structured output, or structured input rather, so you can't just actually send plain text to it. It requires a JSON object to send through. So I'm not gonna send anything through there now. And then the other one is just running the local UI as well. So if we make run UI, so if I just open up that guy, here we go. So just a local version of that UI is spun up now.
So Nicholas, on the make file, you can also add open a browser command. So you just run make, and it opens the browser once it's all spun up. So you can kind of do anything with the make.
Yeah, no, exactly.
There's also, we use make files with fixing things, so instead of having test scripts to do things, you propagate that up into a dedicated set of make commands, rename all this, or fix this, or clear this, or delete, whatever. So get rid of all the test logic and put them into make files with a nice description. Makes it easy for team members to actually.
I'm going to come back to my feature request and ask for make file best practice and skill on the platform side. I'm quite excited for that. I saw on your Daniel on the preview that you're building on the remote shells, is that you can have those server ports. I could kind of share that with people. I think that's going to unlock a lot of great workflows. I can see my ID8 interviews now asking for feedback on things running locally. All right, talk us through the architecture, Nicholas.
So let's see what has been put down with us for us. So it's got what?
HTML.
HTML file. Okay.
Should I open it in a browser?
Yeah. Can I open with the browser from? Can I? No, yeah, I'll just drag it into a browser, I guess.
You can also open it in the command line by saying open and then the file path.
Okay. Let's do that. So where am I here? So it's cd docs, cd artifacts, and then open. And what's it? Okay.
Basically, open tab.
There we go. Oh, I see. It actually opened it up automatically for me. Didn't need to go through all of that. Awesome. So let's see. An expense. Okay, let's see if this is accurate. So we got employees, custom menu expenses to our UI, manager, admin. That makes sense. So both of them having different views on the UI. Got our backend for modeling or managing all of our cloud, our expense resources. So again, this is proper proto-backed AIP resource-driven design. Got your RPCs defined there. We also use, this pattern's also using our LRO pattern. So if you haven't built any LRO operations before and looking for like a sort of a nice template or reference pattern for that, especially as sort of agents is concerned, like this pattern also implements that as well. We Cloud Spanner in the backend for storing everything, Cloud Task facilitating our LROs. And so our agent, just an ADK agent, and we're using a Vertex AI reasoning engine for our session management. So like that's all, you can find that all in the Terraform. When we deploy our agent, the agent's actually running on Cloud Run, but it's backed by Vertex AI reasoning engine for managing the sessions. And then we've got all our IAM and sort of authentication checks running through our users service, which is all connected to our authenticating all our backend hits from our UI. What else does this output for us? So the resource model. Okay, cool. This is actually the first time I'm using this skill. It's really cool. Who's the owner of this? Because it's really awesome.
Tom.
Nice, Tom. Yeah, this is really cool.
So why don't you talk us through
my skill there to give me some royalties?
So Nicholas, any suggestions? Anything that comes to mind immediately?
What would have maybe been cool, but I haven't gotten to the bottom yet. If it actually, oh, never mind. I was just about to say this would have been cool to actually see the agent what it's doing, but it's done that. Okay, no, nice. Yeah, that would have been my suggestion, to actually like understand the application itself as opposed to just the architecture and how it's sort of put together. This is very cool. Oh, this is great, Tom. This will be a feature skill then that's sort of attached or recommended in all of the agent starter pack catalog samples going forward for sure. No, this is awesome. Yeah, it's captured, kind of a flow. Yeah, the actual like flow of events, like what it actually, sort of client to backend to backend LRO, resuming cloud task async. No, this is very cool. I'm actually already impressed.
This is the result of trying to keep up with build chats, all the like architecture and build chats. So I just create one of these to understand it better.
Yeah, no, this is super useful, especially when you're stepping into like an unfamiliar code base or something you're seeing for the first time. This kind of just gives you a really, really good orientation of what you're working with.
So Tom did something nice. He gave a skill to the community, shared it with people. Nicholas, you the consumer of that good wall. So go back to your TUI,
Mm-hmm.
go to the skill, if you don't mind. So pull that skill.
See there what I'm doing.
There's probably that shared, would be the shared.
Code place.
There's blueprint, and you can there's F for feedback. Oh, sorry. If you
F for feedback.
Now, I don't know. Say something nice to Tom.
This is an awesome skill, Tom. Super useful, and will be including in all future agent starter pack catalog builds.
Cool. So this is now a build specialist to a build specialist. So like the build support, this is now between Tom and Nicholas. That if there's issues or suggestions, you can now add. Nicholas, if you want to say attach a session as an example. If you press H, you can attach the coding session that you've just used. That one else.
Yeah, that's which is the one I'm currently building, right? Yeah.
And you send that. So now Tom has got the history of like how that thing was used, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
We extract from that. Sorry.
Sorry, I'm just showing my screen to show that I got the message from Nicholas.
Oh,
so
nice.
now we've got the support channel will also extract all the skills used. You can see that attaching skills, code-based blueprint, which now becomes, from Tom's point of view, super useful context of, cool, this is your example from Nicholas, this is your feedback. That's the actual session. I know what the skills are, and Tom can now go and yank basically why that into his skill world and improve the skill and create version 2 based on your feedback. To give you an idea of like the.
There we go.
So Tom, we're looking at you. You're now the skill owner in this case. So build is not involved here. There's no, there's no Newton or Daniel or any. It's just between the two of you. And that Y, if you look at that Y,
Y copy.
Tom copy.
Okay.
That is an agent-friendly snippet with the attachment, the skill detail, the coding logic, everything that you can now give to the coding agent and say, cool, based on this feedback, improve my skill. The coding agent has got access to the skills command, so it can automatically go and update. You can open a random Claude session. You can go here. There's different ways now of doing that. But the coding, that snippet of text that was copied has got instructions on actually how do we improve the skills. So you can, you can now do do it yourself manually or open a random session and just yank. If you yank that in, yeah, just enter. We know that's the feedback because if you scroll up, look at the sort of the context of this was the following is copied from, is a full transcript. This is a detail, this is a ticket, etc. It will now go and look.
You didn't actually ask for anything, so it's not probably not going to make changes. But seems to have found something.
Even just examples, real life examples.
Yeah,
is useful.
it might find that it like potentially went on a bit of a tangent or tried
Look at that. It found a defect in.
Yeah, I had this file in my file system when I created the skill, but it didn't come along.
Okay. Well.
And while it's making changes at your skills, when you look at your skill list in your TUI, you'll see the skills are being edited and updated, and pending changes kind of. So you can look at it and say, cool, yeah, I like it, just publish. And then it will be the V2 for everybody.
Yeah, no, it's very. Yeah, thanks for the skill, Tom. Really cool.
Oh.
Well, yeah, no, that's. I think that's quite a lot of, excitement for a session. We are getting close to the end of time, so I don't know if there's any other sort of closing comments around build platform or anything like that, Jan and build team. But otherwise, I think we can start wrapping it up for today.
Yeah, I think the only thing is skills without feedback is kind of pointless.
Yeah,
skills feedback in the real life used is like worth gold, and that's how we get a better skill.
Yeah, for sure. And please, everyone, start using. Give the agent starter pack a go. As Jan mentioned, without feedback, it'd be very difficult for me to improve it and make it more seamless. And also keep a lookout for new catalog items there, and be adding those in the coming weeks.
Awesome. Friends give friends feedback on skills.
Thanks, Patrick.
Chris tried your skill on this call, and he just launched a normal request. We extracted the owner of the skill, so the feedback is coming your way, Nicholas, as the owner.
Awesome.
And it's between you and Chris.
Yeah, so. That sounds good.
Okay.
Awesome. Okay, thanks everyone for joining then, and the recording will be made available, so if everyone wants to rewatch and follow again, can just wait on for the recording, and otherwise we'll see everyone in the next one.
Thank you, Doctor.